the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer.
Launched by the Ontario government, running on American airwaves, it invokes the words of iconic Republican President Ronald Reagan against Trump's signature policy, tariffs. It's fair to say the ad really bothered him. Trump says he has terminated trade talks with Canada over it. Now, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he is pulling the ad on Monday after it is watched by millions of viewers tuning into the World Series tonight. As Ashley Burke shows us, with Trump, the damage may already be done. The damage control, well, that is just getting started.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation.
This is the ad millions of Americans watching the World Series will see for the last time this weekend. Ontario's premier is pressing pause after angering Donald Trump.
Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down.
This anti-tariff ad uses the voice of a famous former Republican president against the current one.
America's jobs and growth are at stake.
It drove Trump into this stunning late-night post, declaring all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated, bringing talks to a crashing halt.
And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions.
The Prime Minister spoke to Doug Ford, who posted afterward that Ontario will pause its U.S. advertising campaign effective Monday so that trade talks can resume. But so far, no sign from Trump's team that talks are back on.
I think there's been frustration with the behavior of the Canadians, the demeanor of the Canadians, the positions of the Canadians, and so it's probably a good time to take a break for a little while.
News of the fracture making it all the way to the Vatican.
Two countries that were once considered the closest allies at times become separated from one another.
When is he going to deliver on his promise with a deal?
The opposition seizing on what they say is Carney failing on his signature promise to stand up to Trump.
We ask the Conservatives, rather than talking down Canada, to stand with us.
This former advisor on Canada-U.S. relations says that keeping Ontario's ad running strategically made sense.
The voice of Americans to the White House will always be far more effective than any Canadian, up to and including the Prime Minister.
With Manitoba's premier backing that up.
Keep the ads on TV. They're effective, and this country is behind you.
BC's premier announcing he's making his own ad aimed at the U.S., saying the Americans need to hear Canada's anti-tariff message. But Alberta's premier says she's glad Ontario's suspending its campaign.
And Ashley, and then of course, right, there's Donald Trump.
Well, Adrienne, that's the question now. Will pausing these ads be enough to restore talks with Trump? Both Carney and the president are headed to Malaysia for a summit and may have a chance to talk and at least try to get relations back on track.
All right, that is Ashley Burke in Ottawa. Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton joins us now. So, Rosie, let's talk about the cause of this, because we heard Trump's top economic advisor suggest this was really less about the ad than about frustration with Canada broadly in the trade talks.
Listen, Adrienne, it definitely took the government by surprise, all of this, in part because Donald Trump first mentioned that he had seen this ad earlier in the week. So it was somewhat of a delayed reaction on his part. But sources tell us that it was indeed the ad that triggered this response from the president and the decision to end trade talks. We're told there was nothing happening at the negotiating table or anywhere else. It was really about this ad using the words of another Republican president that seemed to get under his skin. So there was also some consternation, I should say, from the Prime Minister's office that this was caused by Premier Ford's actions, who's previously called for tougher action, but has also been very supportive of the Prime Minister. It was kind of considered an own goal, if you will, at a time when negotiations had been progressing on steel and aluminum. In fact, the Prime Minister just last week was asked if it was time to hit back and said very specifically, now was the time to talk.
And I'm curious, what did you make of the government's public response?
The Prime Minister really focused on the process when he responded as opposed to what happened. In fact, he didn't even say Donald Trump's name. He also mentioned the budget, this trip to Asia, as being part of the country's response to what is happening with the United States. The political challenge, though, here, Adrienne, is that even though the Prime Minister may not have caused this, he has also yet to show he can get results from the president. And given he was elected on that promise, he needs to demonstrate it as soon as possible. What has happened this week, was a setback for him and the country.
Okay, Rosie, thank you. That's Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. With talks called off, many Canadian businesses, frustrated by the uncertainty, are making changes. Nisha Patel shows us how they're pivoting and bracing for what comes next.
Canadian auto parts makers are desperate for a trade deal, but they want to be careful not to give up too much to the U.S.
We're learning that accommodating this president every time he has a quick reaction isn't necessarily bearing fruit. At the same time, we shouldn't provoke him.
Negotiations with Donald Trump have been like a roller coaster. So even though he abruptly ended trade talks, business leaders are ready to ride it out.
2 weeks ago on a Friday, he said, you know what, forget China. They got 100% tariffs on everything. I'm really mad. And then by Sunday night, he wasn't mad anymore, and he backed down.
25% tariffs have hit the sector hard, crushed by layoffs and production cuts. Forestry workers are in a thorny spot, too, as duties and tariffs on softwood lumber have jumped to 45%. 50% levies continue to weigh heavy on steel producers, though aluminum companies seem to be bouncing back.
It's been a long haul. We're used to ups and downs.
Aluminum producers have managed to shift 45% of their exports to Europe. And after exports south of the border dropped off in March, sales there are picking up because the U.S. needs more aluminum than it produces.
Which means that the pain will be on the U.S. side and time will be playing on our side.
Still, some small businesses not even subject to tariffs are on edge. Calgary-based Tapmaster sells faucets, concerned they could be sucked in at any time.
It's low-key terrifying when you're looking at your single largest export customer and just largest customer base in general becoming such an uncertain market.
With U.S. sales down 30% since March, the company is also looking to Europe and Asia.
In a year's time, we might not really be that reliant on the U.S. market.
Many businesses changing plans, knowing that the dizzying ride is far from over. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.